Our on the topping fucked up. Jimini.
Hi, Lana.
Hi. You can have straightforward start.
Thank you. This evening I have a story for you. The title of the story is Alcedo Atis, Latin. I finally managed to stop sobbing. For an hour I sat with the still warm body of a kingfisher in my hand, its blood slowly slipping my fingers together. It makes me so terribly sad. A special bird, its splash as it dived after a fish from its perch on the top of the velvet tree which overhangs the water, announced its presence more often than the treasured sight of its blue flash as I sat drinking early morning coffee. But now it's dead. I was drinking coffee indoors this time, for the morning was a bluster of showers. Then there was a loud thud against the glass doors, very close, making me jump. I didn't expect a corpse. I imagined the bird, I hoped a stupid bloody wood pigeon, so it's flown off a little dazed perhaps, but not seriously harmed. So I finished the page I was on and then, as the sun appeared, stepped out to open up. There, lying on the ground was a bright turquoise bird. Why must it be the kingfisher? I spent the next 10 minutes clutching its warm limp body to my breast, rocking it back and forth, stroking its tiny head. I'm aware that my distress is out of proportion, that somehow the death of this tiny precious bird has triggered something else, perhaps somehow connecting to the sense of the death of small and precious things on a larger scale, that the kingfisher's blue flash in the morning encompassed a kind of hope, the hope in the very fact that there were still kingfishers, that they still flew, fish as they had always done, that they were not only confined to the myths of archaic children's stories. Maybe this is the cause of my seemingly exaggerated grief. Would I have cried so uncontrollably if it had been, say, a wren, or even a cheeky blue-tit who was accustomed to fluttering around my room and eating the easy pickings from the spider's web in the corners of the ceiling, and near? I feel how such an occurrence can be a trigger to madness. Its death so random, so senseless, that the search for meaning leads one to delusions. Why was it flying towards me? Why at that particular moment, when it could have been at any other of the multitude of moments when I was not sitting there? Then I would simply have come across the body and not known the cause of its death. And what was it doing flying away from its usual route above the water? Why did it not shy away from me? After all, I was anything but fish-like in a red t-shirt. Flying straight at me, why? What did it want from me? What message was it attempting to bring? Is my exaggerated breathing, this random death, somehow standing in for all the senseless death in the world, the bird's scarcity through senseless destruction of habitat and poisons, standing in for all other senseless destruction? I dither about for a long time before burying the kingfisher. Partly distracted by grief and not wanting to abandon it, I'm unable to put the creature down in order to clear a little flower bed and pick up a fork. And partly because its small death has taken on something momentous, so to bury it so soon seems irreverent and somehow too final too soon. At last, I wrapped it in a piece of cloth to keep the flies off, and dig a hole in the flower bed facing its favourite tree near the water. I want to make it special, to give some meaning to its death, as if the reason for its dying so randomly was in order to be granted a beautiful funeral. I am clearly slowly disintegrating into madness. I line the hole with leaves from the velvet tree and cover the body in marigolds, yellow and orange, as if the healing power of calendula could do it some good in the afterlife. Distraught and with the slowly dripping body in one hand and the phone in the other, I had called a friend, and he reminded me to sing. Now I feel this is a commitment, that I cannot leave it without a song. The only thing that comes to me is Sweet Chariot, and I hesitate, put off by a sense of kitsch, before succumbing. I clearly need to believe that this beautiful bird is off somewhere and not just cold ground. There should be a special flower to plant in the glade. Something kingfisher blue. I searched the encyclopedia of plants, nothing blue enough. Then at the bottom of the page, a bright blue daisy with an orange centre. Cassilia Badgeriana, in brackets, its other name, kingfisher daisy. Maybe there is no reason, simply random, simply it's time. And maybe being laid out on a bed of marigolds with a bright blue flower for remembrance is not the very worst of circumstances. Later, once I'd farmed sufficiently to open a bird book, I realised from the description of the fawn leaf colour that the bird was most probably a youngster. Apparently the parents aggressively chased their young away to seek their own territories, and this may account for this desperate kamikaze swoop through my foxgloves. Somehow the death of this bird finds the smile on the dark face of the young woman, only 19 years old, freshly escaped from the forced sex trade, having fled from the car of the man who had paid for her, whom I took out to see an open-air dance performance in the park last night. Her answer to my query if life is okay in Moscow was, yes, now it's good, now, yes. And with those few words, enunciated the unspoken misery of the life that had brought her to this place. She too had been fleeing her parents, running from the threat of genital mutilation, betrayed by a mother who would see her risk death by blunt knife infection and childbirth complications, rather than succumb to the humiliation of a supposedly immodest daughter. Chased into the welcoming arms of those well prepared by a deeply misogynist culture who would abuse her further. Praise her courage for having had the strength to have kept running. The next day, I'm clinging to G on the back of the motorbike, swerving through a Dutch pink-dressed landscape, the rush of wind, the lush greenness, but I cannot rid myself of the image of the kingfisher's swift flight and final thud. The idea of omen imposes itself, attempting to shake off the encroaching madness as stock sentences about good days to die, death coming unexpectedly, impinged. I counter the magic with light and transform G's leather jacket, clutching it into a talisman. How can it ever be a good day to die? When I break the news to my neighbour at the school gardens across the wide ditch that separates our piece of land, he comforts me, but it was almost certainly a young bird. He'd been observing the resident parents, and they appear to be busy preparing for a third brood, undaunted. There is hope yet. Somehow, the total devastation of the world has been postponed for another day.
Thanks, Jimini. This was artistic broadcast from Jimini Hignett, and now we're gonna have Irakli Kakabadze.